Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you are doing well and taking care of those closest to you. I'm probably going to keep this brief. I'm sure you might be able to tell from my voice. I have not been feeling very well today, a little sniffly. I do not believe I don't think I have COVID. I did get the newest booster relatively recently. I'm hoping it is effects from that. So we'll see how things pair out for me over the next few days. I'm hoping to be on the mend relatively soon here, but I do currently have my Barry White, Barry White like sexy radio DJ voice, and I think that is one of my personal favorite voiceover kind of voices is to just kind of say anything like this and be like, tomorrow's forecast will be high with a chance of you. It's very like everything about this makes me sound more mysterious and authoritative and manly. I feel like this is the kind of voice right now of like some like post-apocalyptic authoritarian sort of like disembodied voice who like throws you into a life or death struggle for the duration of the film. Very Hunger Games, perhaps. But today, not talking about post-dystopia. I've been talking about a lot of Christmas movies because my wife Chelsea and I's Christmas podcast, the Hallmark After Show podcast, will be returning later this week. So keep your ears out. Thursday through Saturday will be new episodes. We'll be doing 3 a week because there's a lot of new Hallmark movies that have started coming out. They start coming out Halloween weekend. Keep the festivities going all for the rest of the year. But I appreciate if any of you would be interested in checking that out. I would be greatly appreciative. So thank you again. My guest on the show today, on Between Awesome and Disaster, is actor, comedian Matt Ziegler. Matt, I met recently doing Backdoor Barbecue. He was a member of one of our more recent casts. He also, in his own right, is a member of the excellent sketch comedy group Febster that performs at the People's Improv Theater. I've had a chance to work with them as well on one of their shows, which was an incredibly funny, well-performed, well-written show. And Matt is also a member of is currently a member of the cast of Love is Live at the Pit, who I have also had the good fortune of getting to work with. So it has been a real delight as far as being able to work with Matt in a lot of different contexts. And I was very excited to get to be able to sit and have him chat. And I've said this before. The Pit, in the absence of the Creek and the Cave leaving New York City for Austin, Texas, the Pit has become one of my new home bases for comedy in New York City. So I really have enjoyed not only my work there technically, but as well as the people I have met. And they keep me excited because I'm sure, as you've heard me say on this podcast a few times, the grind of stand-up and show business, sometimes it's easy to forget why you start doing it. And the joy that doing these sketch shows with new people brings me is immense. And it's nice to be able to meet new people and as a result get to have more in-depth conversations with them. And this is one of those times. Matt is a great guy. And we ended up talking about a lot of stuff that I could not have planned for. So I am very excited to share this episode with you. If you enjoy this, folks, and want to help out the show, a quick and easy way to do that, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, is to hit subscribe. If you listen on Spotify, is to hit follow to please our almighty algorithmic overlords with our offerings of engagement. As I continue to elaborate on our my need to impress a computer program. But I appreciate all of you being here. I'm going to go make some tea and prepare my NyQuil because I party hard, as I do. And folks, thank you all again so much for being here. Let's talk to Matt Ziegler.
See Bragging Rights. I wanted to see her group.
Yeah.
But it was like super duper sold out.
Yeah, that entire weekend at Sketchfest was just like wall to wall. Every time I was there, I was just there for like the times of a backdoor barbecue, but like even just waiting like in the little green room area
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, it's just walls of groups coming in and out, and like just really the thing that I enjoyed the most is like everybody seemed like really excited to be there. Like the crowds were just
Totally.
ready to see sketch comedy. It was sweet.
Totally. Yeah, no, and I didn't know it at the time, but when you get the pass, it guarantees you at least standby tickets. But if
Uh
people
huh.
bought tickets, they would take precedence, which makes sense.
Sure.
That way, they can make money and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was like 70 sold tickets for them.
Wow.
Yeah. So I saw G after the show, and I
Uh
was
huh.
able to say hi to her and stuff like that. And she's like literally the sweetest.
Yeah, I really enjoyed meeting her the last backdoor barbecue show. I enjoyed meeting you at the last
Yeah, dude.
backdoor barbecue show as well. Now we're like fastly becoming besties. I
Oh,
can
heck
tell.
yeah.
I
Heck
can
yeah.
tell.
This
I
is
can
how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And what I love especially because for me, because I like moved to New York and was like very heavily in stand up for a number of years, and the pit
Mm-hmm.
has always been a part of my rotation.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last few years, since I've really dived into doing the tech thing at the pit, I find that meeting like all of the new groups, especially like the new generation
Mm-hmm.
coming up, I feel keeps me like very excited about comedy. Because stand up, like there were times where it got dark.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I had always, ever since I was young, I always wanted to do stand up.
Yeah.
That's always been kind of the more focused like dream that I had in a
Uh-huh.
sense, or goal. But getting deeper into comedy and doing the different like avenues of comedy, I've
Hmm.
come to find that it's so isolating and it's alone.
Yeah.
It's just you and your material, and even the people that you're doing open mics with or you're doing, sets with. Everyone kind of keeps themselves, or if they're talking, it's like they're talking to you, but they're really just thinking about their set.
Yes.
And I really just feed off like the camaraderie of like doing sketch and,
Right.
everyone kind of doing joke pitches with each other and
Hmm.
taking this script at a pitch meeting, or taking an idea at a pitch meeting, turning it into this like big thing through read throughs and rehearsals. And now like I'd still like to dabble in stand up, but it's
Hmm.
definitely more of an understanding of myself that, it's not necessarily my lane.
Yeah. And this is what I want to dive into as well, because I remember when I was in college being told by a TA that I had a mind for stand up.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely know that there is very clear, like, there's a sketch mindset, and then there is the stand up mindset, the sort of like writes the narrative of like, oh, I'm a tortured like modern day philosopher
Totally.
or what have you. But just to kind of track this a little bit, like I'm 37. How old are you? Just out of
35.
curiosity. 35. Okay, so for some reason I thought you were a lot younger. I don't know why.
I have a young energy. I have a youthful appearance, youthful glow. It's a blessing and a curse, I guess. More blessing.
most assuredly. Okay, so 35. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Florida,
South Florida. Okay.
yeah. So a little town called Stewart. It's like half
Okay.
an hour north of West Palm Beach on the East Coast.
Okay.
It's like a town where everybody's like old aunt or grandparents have a home, or where they went to retire and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really cool growing up there. I mean, everything was slow.
Yeah.
But in terms of having like a little ecosystem, a little like biodome to grow up in that didn't really have, there wasn't really, I don't know, like bad influences there. It's just a very small beach town. So you know what I mean? I when I moved to New York, it always blew my mind seeing 8 or 9-year-old kids taking the subway to school by themselves.
Right.
I would see that and be like, wow, like that's
Uh-huh.
like I could not imagine. My mom walked me to the bus stop through like middle school. The bus stop was like across the street from my house. So
No.
totally different kind of energies with that, or totally different universes. So I grew up in South Florida. I was born in New York,
Oh, really?
in a Lenox Hill Hospital in
Okay.
Manhattan.
Gotcha.
And then when I was about 6 years old, we moved down to Florida. My dad's from Jersey. My mother's
Okay.
from Colombia, South America.
Oh, cool.
So when I was about 5 or 6, they both were like, enough with the cold. What are we doing here? My dad grew up in it and was done with it.
Mhm.
My mom grew up in, like I said, Colombia, which is
Colombia.
like right on the equator. It's like hot all the time there.
Exactly. So she's like, this snow shit. I'm done with it.
Yeah, yeah. And this was like, this is before global warming was what it was now. So like it would get cold in the winters back then.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so then I grew up in South Florida, really nice. Went to college in Jacksonville, about 3 hours north of where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
So total Florida guy, but New York was always the end game.
The goal.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Once I hit on what the thing I wanted to do was, New York was the only place I've ever wanted to be. I never even ever entertained, like, I maybe briefly entertained Chicago at one point, but like LA, I like visiting LA and I like visiting California. I just don't think, especially now, I could make the transition to like driving every day.
No.
And just I am at my best with like knit hats and scarves. I'm a cold weather kind of guy, even though I'm technically from the South to some people.
Where are you from?
Maryland.
Oh, okay.
So like, and the part of Maryland I'm from is like very southern. It's like a lot of people who think they're in like Georgia or
Gotcha.
Atlanta, but a lot of trucks and Confederate
Yeah.
flags.
That's how Jacksonville was. So I'm right there with you.
Totally. But not too dissimilar. Like the area I'm from also is very much like has the vibe of like it's right on the Chesapeake Bay. So it's lots of people with boats, lots of people who like the water. It definitely has kind of that vibe, is that kind of coastal vacation sort of vibe. So I've always kind of like had an affinity for like the sea or those kinds of coastal kind of cities, like especially South Florida. My wife's grandmother, rest in peace, was a longtime resident of West Palm Beach. So I'm kind of familiar with that area as well. You have like the sort of like old, I don't want to say old money kind of influence, but sort of that. And then like there's like Cuban influences in the area. So I like the sort of I like the vibe of that area. Your mom was from Colombia. Have you ever visited there?
Oh yeah.
What part?
She's from Cali.
Cali.
I'm fluent in Spanish also. So like I always sometimes if I'm talking to someone I'll say Cali or something like that, just to have that like gringo accent to not sound too pretentious of like, oh, Cali, you mean? Yeah.
Polo? You want some polo chicken?
You know, polo tropical. Since I was in the womb, we were visiting Colombia. We used to go for like a month and a half every summer, and then for about 2 weeks in December, from when I was a baby until I was like 17, 18 years old. So collectively, all the time I've spent there, I've probably spent like a couple years there if you stacked it all back to back to back.
And have you seen like, because I've heard obviously a lot of people know Colombia's reputation during like the dark times, but I've heard that it's starting to kind of like change for the better. Like
totally.
You're seeing like probably some gentrification-ish parts, but you're starting to see like the trappings of like an up and coming, like rebounding nation.
Yeah, it's a mix of a few factors because for a long time there was a war with like the FARC rebels that were more in like the jungle area, more to the east in Colombia.
Yeah,
I think it was in 2016 or 2017 they reached a peace treaty with the government.
Okay,
so that definitely took away a lot of the violence and infighting that had been going on, and then also the peso is weak compared to the dollar. So a lot of people, like you said, gentrification wise, retire in the US, whether it's doctors or lawyers or whatever, and they go live there for relatively cheap. You live like a king or queen,
right?
So, and then at its core, Colombia is like a beautiful paradise where there's beaches and mountain ranges, and there's areas where it's cold if you want that. There's geysers, there's like I said, like more tropical areas, there's forests, everything. It's the only country in the world that has, I hope I get this right, it's a rainforest, desert, beaches, mountain range, and I believe volcano.
Really?
That has all five, yeah. And so like you had said, a lot of the stigma or the stereotype of Colombia is like, oh, the drugs and Pablo Escobar and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, it's not like that. I mean, it's a place where, it's a whole country, so I don't mean to like totally generalize it one way or the other.
Sure.
But it's like in New York, like if someone says to you, oh, like you live in New York City, oh, isn't that dangerous?
Oh my
God. Isn't that awful? What's it like there? Oh my gosh, do you have to be careful when you're walking at night? You can't be looking at your phone. It's like,
and the interest rate, well, it kind of just depends on where you are and when.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of parts of town where you're just like, okay, well, I'm gonna Uber back from here. I'm not taking this subway at this point. But that's most places. And I'm so glad you hit on that, because I get so annoyed by people who don't live in New York City telling me about how dangerous where I live is.
Yeah. It's a lot of times, them just watching a lot of the news and hearing the sensationalized stories or whatever. But to be honest, it's like, if you don't want to move here because you think it's dangerous, good. We got enough people here. We don't need any more. Stay where you're at. Is it dangerous? Sure, whatever.
Yeah, but I've also found like tourists, they want a little bit of that. It's odd. Like if they're walking in New York City in Times Square, and they're taking up the whole sidewalk, they want someone to be like, "Hey, I'm walking here."
Yeah,
they want that.
That's so true. Yeah, their New York moment.
100%. So let me ask you this. I don't know if you're a sports guy or not. I've seen
big time.
Okay, so do you have like a football team in Colombia?
So yeah, so there's two major teams in Cali. I'll say it right there. It's Cali and America is what they're called. And I used to root for America just because as a young kid, I was like, yeah, that's America. That's me. That's what it is. And then as I got older, there's a team, I think they're in Medellin called Los Millonarios, the Millionaires.
Is that... That's not Atlético Nacional. That's
no.
Okay.
But same region.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Los Millonarios, it translates to millionaires. So when I was young, I was just like, actually, I want that squad, the Millionaires. That's more me. But I have a lot of family that's still there. They follow it. They're like super religious about it. With Cali and America and all those teams. I played soccer like my whole life growing up. And then once I got to college, I stopped and I got a little burnt out from it. So I really don't follow soccer as much as I used to. Come World Cup time, I'm always for it. If Colombia's in the World Cup, obviously I'm gung ho about that.
100%. They'll be back. Okay. So all right. So we'll be hitting some bars when the next
Definitely.
World Cup rolls
around.
Yeah. Because I grew up playing soccer as well.
Cool.
So that's like the one sport I'm like very, very passionate about. This is an FC Tokyo flag from a game I went to in Japan.
Oh, nice.
So similarly, like I love the sort of I like the game as well. I find the game very fascinating, but I'm also very attracted to the like passionate fan and supporter culture. I went to a match in Buenos Aires for the Copa Libertadores.
Oh wow!
And the home team, my buddies in Argentina, their team Vélez Sarsfield won 4-0, and I have never been hugged by so many random older men in my entire life.
Yeah, it was amazing thing there. And that's what I tell my friends when, we talk about sports and the difference in sports in this country and in Colombia. In Colombia, it's not like here where you can play baseball or basketball or, American football or tennis. I mean, I guess you can, but no one's really following it. It's just soccer. You grow up, you're playing with a soccer ball that's half deflated in the street, and your goals are this rock to the sidewalk and then that other rock to the sidewalk, and just go. So when I used to go there when I was younger, that's what we would do. And then you take a break as the taxi cab comes through the street, or whatever car comes through the street, or motorcycle, and you keep going. And it doesn't matter, you get hurt or whatever, you fall down, you get up and you keep playing. Here, because we have more diversity in terms of what sports we can follow or play and that kind of stuff, it kind of takes away from the passion that you're going to feel for one sport. Sure. Like we're a big football country for sure. I mean, that's the number one sport we have.
Totally.
But no one else in the world plays it. So it's almost like it's, we don't even have a Canadian NFL team. They have their own Canadian rules. They have their own fields and different, how they go about it. So, with the U.S., it's. I mean, I love the fact that we have all these sports because I love following them. But yeah, like you're saying, Argentina, especially like a country that's won the World Cup, that's home to Maradona, obviously, one of the most famous soccer players in the world.
He is God.
Yeah. It's a whole another level to go to a place like Brazil or anywhere in Europe, like Italy and Spain and England, the originators, the inventors of the sport. Yeah, it's just it's on another level. So I can imagine all the hugs you got. Probably just 4-0 too. That's waxing.
That was like, and that was they ended up having a great run. I ended up having to watch every single one even after I left because I was the good luck charm.
Nice. Yeah.
I also love how this makes us like probably the most jocular people in the circle in the community. Yeah. Because I'm not athletic at all. You could probably tell by looking at me, but for the longest time, I never thought that you could be both. I thought you had to either be an arts guy or you had to be a sports guy. But it doesn't seem like you have ever had that like distinction. But I want to ask you, when you're growing up, like coming between like Colombia and then eventually Florida, like what kind of kid were you? So if you grew up playing soccer in the street, were you gonna be like an athlete? Was that ever like a dream
that was kind of the thing. I mean, I never thought about wanting to go pro or anything like that. I really just took everything one day at a time. I really liked playing soccer. Part of the reason I liked it, I think, is because I was good at it. And because a lot of my family played it, and there had always been that support for it in my life.
Yeah, it's just kind of around you.
Yeah, and then you become friends with your teammates, and then you're going on travel teams, and you're going to tournaments in the state and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I'd always known, though, that I enjoyed performing. I just didn't have an outlet for it. So it was just something in my mind I always knew I enjoyed. Like, I knew that, like, man, like if I loved Jim Carrey, still love him. Like, he was my inspiration for wanting to do comedy, and seeing like The Mask and Ace Ventura and watching those movies. And then when they would come out on VHS, watching them on the VCR over and over and over again. It's like I knew in my mind is like, I could do that, but I don't know how exactly you get into it. I don't know how you start, but I know that if I'm given the opportunity or the platform, obviously I wouldn't be as good as Jim Carrey, but I could do something that's comparable, at least, or something that could get me to the path to maybe getting to that level. And it wasn't until my sophomore year of high school, I had I had tryouts for the school soccer team. I'd been in on my freshman year. During tryouts, I hurt my ankle, so couldn't play on the team.
Right.
And like a month or two later, they had auditions for the Music Man at school. And that year I had just started singing in the choir in high school, because I had a lot of friends that I had grown up with that were in the choir who weren't necessarily like singers. Like, it wasn't their big thing. They weren't planning on going to college for it. But this choir was, very prestigious in the high school, and it was just another big club for us all to hang out in.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and I had an opportunity to audition for Music Man. There's a part of it, in at Winthrop. At the time, I was very small. Like, at that point in high school, I was like 4'9", 4'10". I was like a really little guy. So everyone was like, "You should audition for Winthrop. Like, you'll definitely get it." He's like the little kid. I was like, "All right, cool."
Right. The kid that has like a speech impediment in the movie?
He had the lisp. Gary, Indiana.
So you were a teenager and you were under 5 foot?
Oh, yeah. I was like really small growing up. Yeah. And it wasn't anything health related or anything like that. I was just kind of a late bloomer.
Sure.
And then from the two mixes of my parents, everyone on my mom's side of the family, everyone Colombian, no one's tall there. I mean, it's just it's a shorter people. And then my dad's Jewish. And so from his side of the family, not too many.
Not a ton of tall.
Not many basketball players. They do exist, and again, not to generalize. But
I know exactly what you mean. I'll generalize myself. German on my mom's side. English on my dad's side. My mom was 6'2", and my dad is 6'3".
And how tall are you?
I'm 6'7".
I was gonna say, nice, man.
Yeah, so I can always reach the top shelf of things.
Oh yeah, can you dunk? Have you tried?
I haven't tried recently, but I never put in the work required to get the jump up. So I was a monster on defense.
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
You were not scoring any. I would literally block people without having to jump. They would literally go up for a jump shot, and I would literally just palm the ball.
Yeah. How old were you when you stopped growing?
Probably high school. I think I remember being like 6'5" in high school. I was always. Class picture day, always on the end.
Yeah,
always in the back. But it was helpful because when I finally started doing high school theater, I was a utility player basically. I was like, we need someone crazy for you. We need someone who can pick up an upright bass and strum it. Pajama game. We need somebody who can dive across stage. Like it started coming in handy, and I've always kind of had that, or even. Not to talk about myself too much because I want to talk about you, but like one of my first like extra acting jobs when I moved to the city, I actually got like an after waiver. The first one I ever got a waiver for was this thing for the Onion Sports Network because they needed like people to be tall because it was like a invention of basketball sketch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
is that on YouTube or something?
I think it's still out there somewhere, or like wherever Comedy Central stuff exists.
Is it like Viacoms, maybe HBO Max or something?
It's probably I think it's probably still out there somewhere in the ether.
That's awesome. So you definitely are. I mean, you're saying not athletic, like being that tall in high school. Heck yeah, man! You're dominating everything. That's cool.
It helped. And when it comes to performing, was that ever in your family? Like, were your parents particularly interested in music or theater or anything like that?
I'd say more my mom. My mom. Always, when she was younger, she used to tell me that she always wanted to do like acting and singing stuff. Not so much my dad or my dad's side of the family, but with my mom's side of the family, the Colombian side, they all tell jokes. Like it's a culture where comedy and humor is a big thing, you know? So
Yeah.
we'd be at the house, and the house that we'd visit in Cali was like the house my mom grew up in. My mom's one of 9.
Yep.
Big family. And in a lot of third world countries or more impoverished cultures, it's the simple things that stick the hardest, you know? So comedy, making each other laugh. And they used to stay outside for hours till like 4 or 5 in the morning, just taking shots and telling jokes. And my uncles would tell jokes for hours and hours. And I remember being young and not really understanding the full context of what the jokes were or meant. Not necessarily because I didn't understand in Spanish. It was more just not understanding. Like they'd be making jokes about people from other cities that there's a stereotype about them that I wouldn't really understand. But hearing them tell these jokes over and over again and everyone laughing at them and crying, laughing, it definitely sparked something in me where I was like, okay, this is a way to like get positive attention and recognition. Not that I wasn't getting it already, but
sure. Well, and then there's also sort of like it's a bringing of people together.
Totally.
Kind of moment. Like that's I remember like realizing like that was a way of like communicating. Like I was a very shy kid, but I knew that I could communicate. But I knew if I could get like laughs, that was a way of like getting into the circle, so to speak. So I'm imagining like if you can sort of like if like your family members are yucking it up on the porch, which sounds like a great evening. I've had many an evening like that in my life. There's especially if you can make adults laugh, you know, it's like, hey, come over here. There's something about like, oh, I belong now.
Yeah.
And how did I get there? It's because I was funny.
And you know, it's interesting that you said about being a little shyer when you were younger, because I've found that people that are taller when they're young would tend to try to make themselves smaller or would feel shy. And maybe it's because you're able to stick out so easily. But people that were smaller growing up had to be more extroverted and push themselves out there. Cause that's totally what I was. You know, I'd mentioned you off air or whatever. I worked at a radio station in high school. So that was all my sophomore year. I wasn't playing soccer anymore. I was doing choir. I did the Music Man. And then a buddy of mine that year wrote a play that we did called I Think I Know I Love You. So I did that. And then I worked at the local radio station in town, Coast 101.3. So it was like in an instant, I went from just playing soccer, just kind of having this one track mindset, to now totally being out there, having all these multiple platforms and opportunities to express myself and perform and all that. And I was hooked.
That's awesome.
That was it.
That was like you were doing like the beginning of what we do now, just in that era. So so like radio to podcasts, writing plays to
totally
doing sketches.
That's,
like,
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
like all of the different mediums. Like because I feel like in show business now you got to be able to do a little bit of of everything. Like you got to be a multi-hyphenate, as the industry term goes. So you were doing that like that early. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then from there, I just knew like I can always play soccer, like pickup games. I could always play pickup touch football, and sports will never leave me. I mean, until I'm too old or my knee goes out or something like that. But the opportunities to perform like high school theater and, you know, just like meet people and kind of get your reps in with that. I wanted to take full advantage of that. So then, through the rest of high school, we did, what we did Carousel. I stage managed that. Junior year, we did To Kill a Mockingbird. I was Jem Finch. So what you were saying too, how you always had a place like in Pajama Game and stuff because you were bigger. There was always kid roles that I was like, I'll take that one. That's me. And then senior year, I was Billy Flynn in Chicago.
Nice.
And that was like my first big lead in a musical kind of thing.
Very cool.
And that was great. The college that I went to, though, the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, they didn't have a theater program. They had it was through the English department. So I did Antigone. We did a play there 1 year. Yeah, so we did
Shakespeare.
that.
A lot of Shakespeare.
And then I did the morning news. So we had like campus news that I would do. And then I worked at a radio station there as well in Jacksonville. It was a Cox Media Group radio station, 95.1 WAPE. It was like
and what kind of station? Well, I also want to know what kind of station the first radio station was.
The first one was were the 70s. So this was, I mean, I was there there in 2004, 2005. The tagline was where the 70s, 80s, and today's music connect. So it was more like soft jams, that kind of stuff.
Carry on my way.
Yeah, some of that. Smooth, Rob's Carlos Santana and Rob Thomas. We used to play that song. How Far Is Heaven, Los Lonely Boys. We played that song a million times.
I remember that song. That's a great song.
Oh yeah,
that's not my favorite Los Lonely Boys song, but that is a good
You know
one.
Another Los Lonely Boys song?
I do. I know. I like that one. Goes, I know it's more than love, baby. It's like
I got to look it up, man. I didn't know.
It's a good one. It's very much like I have kind of a weird soft spot for like 50s rock ballads, like that sort of like doo-wop kind of rhythm and chord progression. I'm not exactly sure why, but and that particular song is very much like there's a ton of great harmony. There's a really sweet melodic guitar solo. That's my favorite of those songs.
I gotta look into that, man. I had no idea. So yeah, it was it was an oldie station kind of like that, and then
best of 80s, 90s, and today.
We had a teen night show though, where alternative pop and hip hop connect. This was our tagline. That was, and at the time, I mean, it was JoJo. JoJo was huge. Usher, and you know what I mean, like all those stuff that you'd listen to in high school.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So 2004, because I remember listening to. I rode the bus my entire school career. Never didn't get my driver's license till after I graduated, and I listened to 93.9 Kiss FM. And every morning I would listen to a Russ Parr morning show. So I would listen to a ton of gospel in the morning, and then it was like
nice.
And then I remember Usher, 50 Cent, Mary J. Blige.
Yep.
That was when
Let's get it crunk.
Yeah, that was when that song was you couldn't get away from that song. That song was everywhere.
Yeah, and 50 Cent in the club. That had just come out. That was huge.
Missy Elliott, Get Your Freak On.
Yep. Get Your Freak On.
Even before the Squab Flip Yet song. Yeah, like so you're playing like a ton of that stuff. Did you ever get to play like I mean, radio, you probably couldn't play like Snoop or Eminem.
No, that radio station experience was it gave me an appreciation for the classics. So at the time, you know, I had always listened to our radio station that I listened to the most is Wild 95.5, which is all the contemporary stuff, right?
Yep.
So at the time growing up, I didn't know who like Billy Joel was. I didn't know too much about Elton John. I didn't know about Queen and. You know what I mean? Like the classic bands of like the 70s and 80s.
AC/DC. Rolling Stones.
My dad was a huge Led Zeppelin fan. So I knew Led Zeppelin. I knew like The Who. But there was a lot that I didn't know. And working at their radio station for 3 years, sophomore year through senior year, definitely gave me a lot of that knowledge and appreciation. And then in college, that radio station was contemporary hits. Gotcha. So that one was like Kesha, TikTok, and Fly Like a G6. And
I don't know that one.
Fly like it. How does it start? Popping bottles in the ice, boom, 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 like a V6.
Okay, I still don't think I've heard it, but
that was
a
very
exactly
poor rendition of it, though. I just want the audience to know that I could do better.
During the like Pass the Cavassier, that Busta
This
Rhymes
was
song.
around that time. Yeah, there was man, I don't know. It's like those songs just drill into your head, and part of you remembers them forever, and part of you just represses the memories.
Depends on how you, I guess, how you feel about the
song. some I remember, some not so much, but yeah, I did that for like a year or two. I just what did you call it? Not intersectionality, when you can do a lot of different things. Multi-hyphenate. That's something that I've always, I didn't even know there was a name for it, but that's something that I always enjoyed doing. Like, I never had a thought that this is the only thing that I should do or focus on. It was always like, I like talking on the radio, so I'm going to do that. I like playing sports, so I'm also going to do that. I like theater. I like singing. I like doing comedy. So I joined an improv troupe right at the end of my time in Jacksonville before I moved to New York.
Gotcha.
Called Mad Cowford. And even that was fun. It was more improv, like game. So like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, which was a ton of fun. And I really enjoyed it, but I didn't understand the varying degrees of improv where there's the Herald and other like short form and long form and that kind of stuff. So at the time I was just like, oh, this is cool. I'd done a few open mic nights, stand up there. But there was still this nagging thing in the back of my head that I was like, I'm not a big fish necessarily, but it's a small pond.
Right. I was going to ask you, so this improv group, what was it, like small black box theater or community?
Yeah. A small black box theater. They had that we'd play shows in once every 2 or 3 months where they would do a gig, but mainly it was like in bars. Like we'd go to bars that were pretty big that you would otherwise see people doing like open mic nights for stand up, and we would do like a whole, hour-long show of game, and it was interesting. It was neat. I mean, the comedy community at Jacksonville at the time, so this was like 2013, 2014, definitely wasn't big. I could feel that it was growing.
Yeah.
But there was a sense for me that I wasn't going to be, like, if it ever got really big, I wasn't going to be there for it. Like, I knew that I was either going to be in New York or, like you had mentioned, LA was something that I'd always thought of. I just knew I needed to be in a bigger city. Chicago, too, I was always interested in.
Yeah, Chicago's another one. Even before Austin really blew up the way it has in the last few years, Austin, Texas, had a really great little comedy scene before it really exploded the way it has in the last few years after Rogan ruined the whole city.
Now it's like huge.
That and tech. But I know what you mean. There's those like little pockets where like you feel like something's kind of happening.
Yeah.
Did you know like stand-up comics like Will Watkins or my friend Mike Mercadal? They're from the Miami area. Very, very funny guys. I was just curious if you maybe bumped into them and doing stand-up.
Maybe it's a small world, so I might have, but I just at the time the people that I was meeting were the people that I was literally like performing with, and like seeing a lot of. But even them, I would tell them like I'm eventually going to move to New York and. Not saying that I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be a big star. It wasn't anything like that.
You had a goal.
Yeah, I felt like the sea turtles, right? Where when they hatch out of the egg, they come back to the same beach that they hatched out of and lay their eggs there, kind of thing. I knew that I was going to be back in New York. I've always just had a spiritual connection with the city where even growing up in Florida, I had pride in being like, oh, well, I was actually born in New York. I've been a Yankees fan my whole life. So there's always something that was going to bring me back here. Even with all that said, I couldn't have anticipated how great it is living here and how much I love it. Like how much it really, mind, body, and soul aligned me. It's the best.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I'm from like the middle of nowhere, and I've been here for 13 years and never want to leave.
Cool.
I just love
13, real New Yorker. Let's go. Heck yeah.
I'm a real New Yorker by transplant standards. To my wife, who's born and raised, never.
Okay, no. True. There's levels to it. I'm at about 8.5 years.
Okay,
so I'm just looking to get that 10-year mark where I can really put that under my belt.
Yeah, you get the stamp.
On exactly.
Your card. No, I got
You're going for your second lap. That's cool.
Exactly, man. Because I just love kind of being. I feel like, and this is something I've thought about a lot. I feel like I'm in the game, sort of, because to me, New York is one of those cities where like things like the event stuff is happening. Like there's either like if not big world news, then there's like really vibrant scenes that are emerging that culminate. Like I'm really big into music, so I read about like the New York hardcore scene from here, like that sort of alt rock, like meet me in the bathroom era of like garage rock. To me, I feel like I'm like in on the field, whereas like before, where I felt like I was like living on the sidelines. Like my hometown like cheered for DC, but we weren't in DC. DC was just closest.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. That was something I'd always kind of wanted for myself, and it sounds like even when you're like starting to like find your leg as a performer in Jacksonville, you knew what the goal was to get
totally
here.
I knew as soon as I got to New York, I wanted to be doing open mic stand up, because again, I had that childhood dream still of doing that, and it only took me doing a couple open mics to be like, this is tough, man. Like not getting laughs. And at the time, moving up here, I'm much different than I was 8.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Had much thinner skin in terms of being able to face rejection and that kind of stuff, especially, grow up in Florida where everything's slow and chill, man. Like, dude, it's all good. And the stakes aren't so high there, because how far could you really go? So if you face rejection there, it's whatever. I'm in Florida, I'm in Jacksonville, or I'm in Stewart or whatever. Here it was like, wow, like I'm doing an open mic at some club, Broadway comedy club, and I didn't get any laughs. Wow, maybe I'm just not funny.
And I paid $5 and bought a drink to do this.
Yes, and I talked a few friends into coming, because I thought this was going to be my moment where like see me so you could say I knew him when, the whole thing. And after a few of those,
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because I've been there.
I was gonna say there. I feel like we all kind of have this story of our coming up, our starting out in the comedy scene here. And then I took a sketch writing class at the Pit
Yeah,
that
yeah.
first summer, a few months into living here. And a lot of the people in the class, Holden McNeely was our teacher. He was in Murder Fist. He also directed National Scandal, which at the time was a big sketch group at the Pit. And he told us, like, instead of taking level 2 and level 3 and all that stuff after, it was a sketch writing class. Just collaborate with each other. Just put on your own shows. It's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
And so that's how me and Katie met. Katie Mazart, who's a co-producer with Febster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we met. And all of us started putting on shows, and the ball kind of started rolling. And again, I come to find, looking back and understanding myself and why I like things that I like with sports. What I really love about it is, like what I was saying about comedy, the camaraderie. I love playing pickup basketball games because I love getting to know the people I'm playing with and cracking jokes and just keeping the mood light and, being able to just compliment each other and be like, hey man, good move, or say something to your teammate like, hey, good switch there. And there's just something so great about sharing energies with positive people that have a common goal, whether it is through sports or performing or comedy or whatever it is. So doing sketch like really, really brought that out of me. And then the rehearsal process and joke pitching, it was all so cool, and it still is really cool. And I really still get so much enjoyment out of it. Producing can get a little tedious and can be a little fatiguing. Just because there's all that little semantic stuff like printing out scripts, making sure you all have your props and costumes and rehearsal spaces and all that kind of stuff. But it's worth it. I mean, it's worth it to be able to put a show on and have an audience of people that that support you and also that you don't know, and that genuinely are just laughing at the stuff you're putting on because they find it funny, not because they like you as a person and just want to support you, which is fine too.
Yeah.
There's room for that too.
What a positively healthy outlook on life. I really am. I'm the idea of like of like wanting to be with people. I love this energy from you, Matt.
I appreciate that, man.
Really
Yeah, it's the Florida in me, man. It's just the idea of sharing the light and having gratitude and appreciation for every day, having the opportunity to do what we get to do. And what you were saying too, in this comedy community that we're in, we're meeting so many different types of people with so many different passions and like what kind of music they like and movies they like. Like, for instance, Katie loves horror movies. I hate horror movies. I hate getting scared. I hate jump scares.
Yeah.
She's all about it. And she's actually had me watch a few with her where I'm like, it's not so bad. Like there is a very interesting artistic direction to how these these thriller, scary horror movies are made that kind of has given me a bit of an appreciation for it, where I still hate getting scared. I can appreciate the art of it a little more than I could before, where I was just like, nope, hard out, nothing at all.
Sure.
Or like you're saying, like the grunge music,
like when Paul and I met, I think I put on like Newfound Glory or something the first as like a pre-show music. He's like, oh man, that's my favorite band. I was like, really? And now he comes on every year. We recap the pop punk of the year.
That's so cool, man.
Like I love like forming like those kind of little connections. So how long were you in New York before you found the Pit?
She was only a few months. So I moved here February 2015, and by August I signed up for that class, and we did our first show. I want to say it was either September, October at Triple Crown. The Triple Crown bar.
I know Triple
in
Crown.
Midtown. That's not too far from
in
the
that
Pit.
Basement.
Yep, exactly.
I know.
Oh, you know about the basement.
I know
Let's
about
go.
the basement. I did a stand-up show opening for an improv group, and the audience was the 9-person improv group.
Cool. Yeah.
I know Triple Crown very well. Yes.
Yeah, we had a mix of like it was a huge show that we put on because it was 12 of us in the class that were in this show together. So between 12 of us, and then all of us brought at least one or two friends to either write or perform. So it was like their friends. We packed the basement out for what it's worth, but it was just such a dark, dingy. Looking back though, the best memory, man, the best memory of that being, I remember walking to the show, listening to Billy Joel, listening to Just the Way You Are, because that used to be my like. I know it's a slow like love song, but that used to be my hype up song. I'd listen to that and get so like, let's go.
Yeah.
And listening to that, walking over to Triple Crown, just being like, wow, like I'm about to do it. I'm about to perform a sketch show in New York City, in Midtown, in Manhattan. for friends and some people that I didn't know, some like people at the bar that were just sitting there that were like, okay, I'll come downstairs. Can I bring my drink? It's like, of course you can bring a drink.
Yeah,
please,
absolutely.
get 2 more.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning. And then, we did shows at the Creek and the Cave in Long Island City.
I know the Creek and the Cave very well.
We did actually a show at a Broadway Comedy Club. We did a lot of stuff at the Old Pit, at the Underground, the Striker, stuff at the Loft. Forgetting a few places. And then, it was just this momentum had built of us putting on these shows. And then obviously, like everything else, the pandemic happened, everything kind of stopped. And so there was about like a 3-year break where, from like November 2019, that was our last show before the pandemic. And then the next time I performed was November of last year in Old School Sketch Show at the Pit. And that friggin' changed my life, man.
Yeah, Old School is like, it's a great sort of like testing of the waters. Like once you're,
it was wonderful. Yeah. It's a show where you meet your cast at your pitch meeting, and you have 1 week to put on the show, and then the rehearsals, and it's this SNL-y kind of feel to it. And I just I had no idea how, I don't know. I don't mean to be like exaggerative, if that's even a word. I'm fluent in English and Spanish, so anytime I make up words in English, I try to remind people that, like, well, I also know a whole other language. So.
Right. I got what you were trying to say.
I didn't realize how kind of dead I was inside. Not being able to perform, and how much like that really had become a part of who I was, a part of my identity, and it's not, needing the praise or the cheers, but not having the camaraderie, not having the ability to collaborate with others and create
the
this
creative
thing.
outlet.
Yeah.
Like just something to communicate your kind of bizarre thought.
Yeah, exactly. And then when someone else can relate to that thought, that wonderful feeling of connectiveness where it's like, oh wow, like I'm not alone in that. Like what a beautiful feeling to have. Up until Old School, I didn't realize how much of that was numb, and it was like this ice block had built over that part of my soul or whatever.
Yeah.
And just from doing that 1 week show, completely melted away, became super close with everyone that I did Old School with. We still stay in touch. We actually performed at Sketchfest on Sunday. We had a little reunion show where we did a few of the old sketches that we did last November. And
very cool.
It was like no time had passed at all. And we all still stay in touch, and, we're all still friends anyway. But it was wonderful. And then from there, me and Katie started putting on Febsters, and I'm in the show Love is Live at the Pit. I'm one of the Lover Boys.
You're the new regular Lover Boy?
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Me
and Tyler.
Very psyched.
It's an awesome show. It's
even when I don't work that show, I go and watch that show because it is just the most fun. My wife loves that show. We always try to make sure.
Come. I'll get your comp ticks, man. I'll get you in the back door.
Yeah, we're that one's a perennial favorite. She has like she offers suggestions. She's talked to
cool.
I think Mackenzie's like, well, something with the like practical stuff with the cards, and she's like, I'm sure like if she could be a contestant, she would love to be a contestant.
Yeah.
If they would have it. But yeah, that show is great. And so Febster is a relatively new group. So this group you were doing before the pandemic was not Febster.
No. The big collaborative class group was called Lizard Police.
That's a great name.
And then thank you. I thought so too. We look back on those days with somewhat fondness, but also a little cringiness for some of the sketches we were doing and how like not funny they were, but we were just like, got to try something, got to put it out there.
Oh yeah,
just like anything else.
Exactly. You got to really embarrass yourself before you start. Like it's all just part of the process. It's just most of the time that. It's one of the few disciplines where you see like the progression to the final product, I think, a lot of times.
And then 6 or 7 of us broke off and formed another group called Ghost Deaf. And then we did that for a few years. And then Febster just came about because the title, the word Febster, is an inside joke from our Ghost Deaf days, where one of the guys in our cast, we asked him to do a rewrite of a script. And he ended up changing every character's name to from Webster to Febster. And it wasn't that funny, but it was hilarious. Like to anyone else, it wouldn't be funny, but to us, for some reason, it was the funniest thing in the world where he handed us all those scripts.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you're doing stand up and the crowd is silent, but the comics are all laughing.
yes, exactly. So when people ask us the origin of the name, it's like, well, I'll tell you the story, but I don't expect you to find it funny. So when me and Katie started Febster, we wanted to make it this collaborative thing where let's have a rolling cast. Let's have different people teching the show. Like you've teched for us. Kyle Shamblin's going to be teching for us. We've had Slaney, Rose Jordan tech for us.
I know Slaney.
And then different people in the cast, people that I've worked with and done old school sketch show with, people that Katie has, people that we've just met in the community. It's been just awesome. It's been so cool. This is our 4th one coming up now, October 29th at 8:30 at the Pit. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm excited to get a 2-month break for November, December. Not sure exactly what the future holds for it with how big a cast we want to do and how many sketches and that kind of stuff. But it's all brought me back to life, man. Like I said, gratitude and appreciation. I just feel very thankful to have the opportunity.
Yeah, there is just something that comes to from like when you find the thing and then it goes away and then you get it back. There's a whole renewed sense of just enjoyment. I've found like the last couple of band shows I did after the pandemic were just so cathartic, and even getting back in that booth because I get hit up pretty fairly regularly, not to toot my own horn, but people want to work with people ask me to tech their stuff, and just being in that booth with that follow the fear sign behind me, and I just love I love watching the crowd pop. Like as I go to a lot of pro wrestling with Chris.
Cool.
Big pro wrestling fan. So like when we're in the crowd and like you hear like a really big pop for a move, or it's the same with comedy. I view like my work as my work at the sketch because I do stand up. I've done stand up and storytelling there. I've never been in sketches, but I always love when I get a little voiceover line. That's always fun. But it's a certain sort of like proud dad moment. If that makes any sense.
Totally.
From when I'm like up there and I know what the plan is and it's working well. And when I love like really I love like when I hit those cues really strong. Or like when Love is Live, when that woman was telling that story about stealing a taxi cab. And then I punctuated it with the Seinfeld bass.
Yeah, that was nice.
Similarly, like the way I imagine you all feel when you're on stage performing, I love living for those pops where I'm just like, yeah. Or even when Backdoor did our Sketchfest show on Saturday, Sonny was directing.
Yeah.
Sonny Atwell, friend of the show. And he's like standing next to me. And every time like a cue goes really well or a joke really hits, he's like when they cut to Premier League coaches after a goal, he's just like, yeah. He's like dancing. He's just vibing so hard. And like, there's a joyousness to it. There's a real joyousness to it because I spend a lot of time in dingy basements with angry people and before the pandemic. And now I feel like, again, like you're saying, this like renewed sense of appreciation for it. I'd love to talk to you a little bit before we get out here about some of the, I'd love to like talk shop about about sketch writing and stuff because like it's an area of comedy writing that I've never been trained in or tried to do myself. So I would love to talk a little bit about like what when you were taking those initial classes at the Pit and in your collaboration, what are some like key things you've learned that have been really helpful when it comes to writing sketch for you?
Holden was a really great teacher for us. I would say, heightening, obviously, kind of not trying to start a sketch where the stakes are so crazy. You want to kind of be grounded in reality in the beginning and then just kind of take off from there. Give yourself a runway to really make it crazy. And by the end, I mean, I'm personally a fan of Mr. X. So like right at the end, having not necessarily where like, oh, it was all a dream, but having something that you believe to be true in the beginning turn out to not be true or to have it turn out to not be exactly what you thought it was. I really enjoy that. Holden used to tell us just get wild with it. Actually, so our name Lizard Police came about because one of the first classes he was like, giving us notes about one of the sketch ideas that we had provided. And he was like, and what if at the end they all just take off their masks and they're all just lizard people, and then they all just, you guys go crazy and you start chugging sodas, and and at the time I remember us all kind of looking at each other like, this guy's crazy, man. Like, that's insane. But then you watch a show like I Think You Should Leave, and a lot of
that's all heightening.
Yeah. And you see a show like that and it works and it fits. And we had seen some of Holden's sketch group, Murder Fist. Henry Zabrowski is in it as well.
Yeah, and isn't Amber Nelson used to do with them? I love Amber. She's so funny.
They're so funny, but they're a group that getting to the big heighten is big for them, because just when you think that it can't go any crazier, they take it to that next level. So like, I don't know, Katie's a much, much more talented sketch writer than I am by far. But we've talked about, our processes and stuff like that. And everyone kind of has their own thing. I'm someone that, like I said, I like to keep it simple. And then when you get to read throughs and you get to rehearsals and people are providing you joke pitches, and as you're blocking out the scene, being like, oh, well, it'd be really funny if someone crossed here at this time instead of there. And I love really molding it like that. Katie's, it's more, when she writes the sketch, it's pretty much like good to go. Like, once you put it on its feet on stage, there might be a few things that you change. But hers are more like dialogue heavy, where the jokes are within the insanity of the character, the back and forth between the three friends and the crazy conversation that they're having. I would say, just like anything else in comedy, like I'm sure that, they say with stand-up, base it from your own truth. Yes. What's the stuff that makes you laugh the most? Are you someone that laughs more at I Think You Should Leave, or someone that laughs more at Seinfeld, or laughs more at something like Friends or Frasier, or or a Chappelle Show kind of person, or Key and Peele? Just kind of finding what thing really tickles you and going from there. I also like doing parodies. One of the sketches we did was in our last show was like a To Catch a Predator sketch.
Yes,
right? But
I remember that.
But
sketch.
instead of a predator is to catch a Trump impersonator. And that was something that had just kind of been on my mind, because through the pandemic I noticed that there's a lot of comics that their whole shtick, all they were doing was Trump impersonations. And while granted some of them were like really, really good, as someone that likes performing and someone that likes, what was that word again? Where you do multiple things? Multi-hyphenate.
Yes.
As someone that considers themselves multi-hyphenate, I don't know, it was a little annoying where I was like, can you do something else? Can you give me like one other impression? Like, I get it if you're an impressionist, but give me something else. So to be able to put that on stage and then to have people laugh at it, where it's almost like they understood the joke and they kind of agreed. Yeah, it feels great, because again, it's not just you putting on this silly thing. It's a seedling of what you're putting on is a real observation that you made. And then you don't feel so alone, because you're like, oh, other people have this thought. Awesome.
That's a great feeling as an audience member, and I love when I can give that as a performer as well. Just that, again, coming back to that sense of like community, like a coming camaraderie, a coming together. Absolutely, that's what it's.
Yeah, and with one last thing with sketch writing,
please.
I don't like to write alone. I love writing with one other person, or even like two other people. Again, just collaborating on building this thing, creating this thing. Katie, again, she's way better at writing alone, and kind of just writing alone, providing it the script at read through, and then we add little stuff to it. So again, like, there really is no right or wrong way. It all just is what you're most comfortable with. But for me, I wouldn't want to do anything by myself. The whole point of doing this, because the same thing with like improv. I know improv, there's a lot of obviously camaraderie and like heavy trust that you're putting on your scene partners and stuff. So, not improv isn't typically done alone, but there's something about that too, where it's your ideas you're kind of putting out there and someone has to catch you.
Yeah.
It's a little too scary for me, where it's the other side of the stand-up coin. So I find that sketch is just that nice, right down the middle, not too hot, not too cold, perfect bowl of porridge.
I know exactly what you mean. I sort of like having the comfort of the set list, but the freedom to deviate and then go back if need be. It's like if I'm in the ocean, like I like that there's about like, the water looks cool. It's like, oh, okay, Be like, oh, there are a lot of birds over there. Okay, what's that triangle coming towards
Yeah,
me?
what is that? What's that epic Jaws music?
Yeah. Why is that two-tone interval happening?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'll just get back on the boat. Oh no,
Yeah.
it's the Meg.
Yeah. Oh, the Meg 2.
Meg 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, good one.
That's right, man. Have you ever been able to like get any of your like Spanish speaking abilities into Sketch?
No, it hasn't been anything that that's a good question. I actually haven't even thought about it. I know at the Pit they have a Spanish improv show that they do sometimes. Slaney's
cool.
been in it before because they always take one person that doesn't know Spanish and they throw them in there.
I should volunteer to do that because I make a great confused gringo.
You should. Slaney said the show's like a ton of fun and that they're always looking for someone to be the confused gringo.
Okay, I'm gonna need get
totally. Yeah.
Help me out with that. That'd be awesome.
But in terms of Sketch, no. I guess I never really thought of incorporating Spanish into it, but maybe that's something that I should consider.
That you might. I'll pitch you something right now because I used to have this stand-up joke where I would talk about. I mean, I don't want to do the whole joke for you now, but one part of the punchline is that if you just say anything with enough confidence in Spanish, it can sound sexy, even if it's completely ridiculous. And then I would go on to say things like. Mi amor, necesitan un chica por ropa interior y dia de los muertos. Me pene es muy biblioteca. And so
nonsense.
Like, yeah, exactly. I just said complete nonsense words. I just said whatever what anyone can remember from 7th grade in Spanish.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you had that telenovela sort of rhythm. So I'm imagining like a service where someone could translate your awkward English
and turn it into that Spanish. That's a good idea.
And turn it into like very suave Espanol.
Well, because with friends, sometimes I'll joke where, yo puedo hablar español así como un gringo, donde tengo un acento muy fuerte americano. Pero también yo puedo hablar español así de esta manera donde mi acento pues no es totalmente hispano, pero al mismo tiempo no es 100%. So all I said was that, I use sometimes a gringo accent and sometimes I use my Spanish accent. But that Spanish accent that I just used, when I'm in Colombia, I still sound gringo to them. Yeah, so it's quite humbling.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm so glad you brought this up because I know a little bit about this. So I don't know what it is for Colombia, but I definitely, excuse me, I have been told that learning Spanish in Chile is like trying to learn English in like the Louisiana swamp.
Yeah, it's different. The dialects
like
differ
different
all throughout, and then even within the country, the different towns and cities and stuff. Yeah. It's totally different. I know in Colombia, the stereotype about Colombian Spanish is that it's very sing-songy. Que hablamos español así, que no, parce, ¿por qué tú vas acá? It's like a little roller coaster that you're on.
And it sounds like vaguely sarcastic.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's always a tone of sarcasm or like you're cracking a joke, it's not quite serious in tone. But then, there's other countries where like Argentine Spanish is a little more flatter. In how they speak it. And then it all goes back to who owned you and stuff like that.
Because
Colombia was owned by Spain.
And then you get back to Spain and I imagine Spain would be like the most aristocratic.
Yeah. I mean, they pinkies up.
I just did the pinky up to all the listeners because I was reading a book about the El Clasico, the Madrid-Barcelona rivalry, and like Madrid, like historically had a lot of affiliations for like the fascist regimes of Spain. So I always think of that sort of like the twirly mustache with like the helmet, with the spike on it,
Spanish Inquisition style.
That kind of thing.
They still vosotros, which no one else uses. So they're living a whole different life over there.
Yeah, and when I started learning about this, it also made me think of when I watch English dubs of anime, if they have somebody from the region of Japan called Nagano, which I've learned, I guess, is supposedly like the south of Japan. They always give that character like a Texas accent when they do English dubs. So it's like, why is this person why is this samurai talking like he's a cowboy?
Did you go to Comic-Con?
I didn't.
Oh,
I,
so much
I
fun, man.
didn't. Did you go?
Well, my sister, she got us tickets randomly last year, just kind of out of the blue, just because it was something. So my sister just moved up here 2 years ago. She's been here actually like 2.5 years.
Is
And
she your only sibling?
only sibling. We're 7 years apart. She's younger.
Okay.
But we're very close. We've always been super close. And she just loves doing things. And she was like, hey, I want to get tickets to Comic-Con. Do you want to go? I was like, yeah, let's go. And it was so much fun last year that we were like, we're definitely going every year from here on out.
Amazing.
And it was so much fun. And that's the thing. I'm not even really too big, and neither is she, like an anime person or comic books necessarily. Actually, a lot of the stuff that they offer there, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of. It's not that I don't like it.
Right.
It's just not something that I go out of my way to pursue, like watching or whatever. But seeing so many people that are that into all these different like subcultures and genres of entertainment and animation and all that stuff. It's so cool. And people dressed up and the costumes and the props and the weapons and stuff. It was a really good time. I definitely suggest you go. I mean, especially if you watch anime and you like that kind of stuff.
Excellent. We're going to have to. All right. We got a lot of future plans, I think.
For sure. Like you said, besties, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Burgeoning besties. I like the sound of that. Last thing I'll ask you before we get out here. So I like to manifest stuff on the show. What's something comedically you want to create that you haven't done yet? And it can be anything. Let's dream.
I've always wanted to write a musical.
Okay.
I've always wanted to merge singing and acting. So something like Book of Mormon.
Okay.
Where Book of Mormon, the music is amazing. And it's
impeccable,
right? And the story itself makes total sense. And the acting and the performance is done in such a way where, yes, you're laughing, but you're also impressed. Mm-hmm. And like I said, and then the not even including like the musicality of it all.
Like all the music in that show is like 100% like it. If it could be like, if you didn't know it was a comedy, like it would be, you could take it seriously. Like I've always thought of You and Me, but mostly Me. That was like, oh, that's like a take on like a song from Wicked, like a big belting kind of ballad, or Lion King. They take the piss out of that a bunch of times, like, and some of the shit they get away with.
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever seen Book of Mormon?
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it a few times.
Sweet.
I saw it once with the guy from Dear Evan Hansen. I can't remember his name right now.
Ben Platt?
Ben Platt.
He was in Book of Mormon?
Yes, he was the Josh Gad character.
I could see that.
I can't remember what the character's name is. I'm blanking on it. But he was the Josh Gad character, played it totally different, and yet it totally worked. It was really good. This was, gosh, when did I see that? That was like 2014. That was even before I moved to New York. I came up to visit a friend, and we did rush tickets for like $25-$30, standing room only. And I remember thinking like, I got to stand the whole time. Like, it's definitely worth seeing, but okay, it's whatever. And just laughing the entire time. I didn't even notice that I was standing. By 10 minutes into it, I was like, it's actually a good thing because I feel like I can get a heartier laugh. Like I feel like my diaphragm isn't constricted by sitting down. I'm getting the full belly laugh out. So yeah, I would love to do that. I guess 3 things. I would love to do that. I would like to do more stand-up, even though, like I said, it's not necessarily the goal anymore.
Sure.
I would want to be able to at least do it and have like a 5-minute set where if somebody was putting on a show and was like, hey, do you want to just like open for us or something? I could do it. And
it's a good like ability to have.
Yeah, just to have in your back pocket. I mean, like Mackenzie, I know, does a lot of that. She puts on her own stand-up shows, but then also just the ability to open for someone and just be able to do like a little set on someone's show and then meet all them and to be able to network and connect from there. And then to create some like characters, to be able to take like a character class and to create some characters with unique voices and stuff that would essentially prepare someone to be able to audition for SNL.
Would that be a dream come true?
That is the dream. Yes.
All right.
And whether or not it ever happens will not have any bearing on what I deem successful in my life.
Of course. Yeah, you seem pretty well adjusted. Like you're not chasing like I need to be famous to be happy.
No. Being this far in life, I just couldn't be more appreciative. Could not. Like getting to live in New York City, getting to do comedy and just being happy every day. I couldn't ask for anything else. But if there's like a little bit of a thing that I'm chasing, or a little bit of a thing that would really put like the cherry on top of it all, to even be able to audition for SNL would just make me feel so validated in a way that I don't need, but would be nice to have, to just say for the rest of my life that I had that opportunity. So yeah, just to get better at the things that could lead me towards that path. That's the manifestation, big time.
Absolutely. Very cool. Okay, so musical, we could definitely do that. Could do some funny songs.
Yeah. And if you ever want to collaborate on stuff too, man, I'm always...
Dude, I would love to work with you on that, because I have one thing that I thought about lately, I got it for my mother-in-law, got me for Christmas this year, is I feel sometimes when they do sketches, when folks do like video sketches, I wish they had like an external microphone to get external audio. So I have one of those. I just need to get a boom.
Cool.
And then so we could totally do something.
I'm always down. For me, just like I said, I feel like I keep harping on it, but it's to have the opportunity to live here and meet people that are like-minded, that want to create art and comedy and stuff. I do not take that for granted at all. And I love immersing myself in any way that I can with it. Yeah. So,
and this is the kind of energy that washes away a lot of cynicism that I built up from too many years in open mics. Not that I'm discounting it, because I did get better, but it's this kind of energy that and vibe that I enjoy being around. So I am very happy that we know each other now.
For sure.
I'm very glad that we've gotten to work on some things.
I always think to myself, and it's at least my truth, is that, the love that has been poured into me my whole life is what allows me to pour out to others and to share it with others. Like none of who I am is possible without the people that I've met, you included, that have been so cool and so nice, and meeting you at Backdoor Barbecue and killed it for us there, and then being able to have you tech for us at Febster, and again killing it for us there. Like, that stuff really matters to me. You didn't have to do that, or you could have taken it not so seriously, teching for us. You could have been like, well, this is their show, it's not even really my thing, so blah blah blah. But exactly what you're talking about, being in the tech booth, having the follow the fear sign behind you, having that passion to do it and to hit the beats right on time, it's cool, and it's something that, like I said, I don't take for granted. So I appreciate you, man.
Dude, feeling is more than mutual. I appreciate that. What can we plug before we get out here? I don't know if this will be out in time for the next Febster show in October, but what have we got? What have we got? Take a look in the
calendar. I don't know if you do this, but like for my iPhone calendar, I use for everything.
Yeah, so do I. And another thing that I've learned, having a shared calendar with your significant other is a game changer in terms of like making communication so much easier.
I'm sure.
Just a little tip for the future.
And it shows like a shared calendar. So if you put something on there, she can immediately see it, and vice versa.
Exactly.
You have notifications on for it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got notifications. And then I always like, I'm adding this to the calendar. So like concerts, I just got tickets for concerts next summer, like all that stuff.
Let me see. So the next Love is Live is November 4th at 7. I won't be at that one. I'm going down for one of my best friend's weddings in Florida. The next Love is Live that I will be at is on Saturday, December 2nd at 7 o'clock.
Fantastic.
And aside from that, I don't have anything else planned, but I want to continue doing stuff. We're going to take a break with the Febsters for at least the rest of this year. But if I have any opportunities to jump on people's shows that they're doing, anything at all, I'm totally game for that.
Excellent. Hit up Matt, everybody. He's a delight to be around. And
thanks, man.
Thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. It's cool.
An amazing conversation. I enjoyed that immensely. Didn't know I'd be talking about late 90s, early 2000s R&B and have a new buddy to watch the World Cup with in the next few years. Matt, thank you again so much for doing the show. It's great to have you over. Look forward to many hangs and working together in the future. You can find links to everything related to Matt and Febster in the description. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you want to hit subscribe or follow, help us please the algorithm. And if you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who would be interested in listening to it as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. You can follow me on Twitter or X at ComicWillCarry. But most of the time I am on my favorite place, which is Instagram at WillCarry23. That is where I post most frequently and most enjoyable, my most enjoyable social media material at WillCarry23 on Instagram. And if you want to go a little bit further in support of the show, you can go to our Patreon as well as our merch store. Links to that are also at awesomedisaster.com. Thank you all so much for being here. I am going to continue to drink tea and try to get some rest and maintain, get out of this this Barry White like head cold voice that I have. And folks, I hope that you continue to do well and that you are getting ready for a fun holiday season. And if you're dreading it, then I hope that there's some joy to it for you as well, which you can find on my other podcast, the Hallmark After Show podcast that I do with my wife, Chelsea Connor. You can listen to that everywhere you get your podcasts. Thank you all again so much for being here, and I'll see you next time between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.